G'day guys, the old mate Big J here. Welcome to another edition of Aussie Boxing Talk. So today, in about 24 hours or so, maybe less, Sam Goodman's going up against Nick Ball for the WBA featherweight title. I only learnt recently that Nick Ball is the only world champion in the UK at the moment. I find that surprising considering how well UK boxing's been doing over the last few years. We're going to talk about Shannon O'Connell and her recent fight. Sky Nicholson, her fall from grace that she's having a club show in Brisbane. That didn't take very long, did it? And we might touch on the Nikita Zarafa card, which is, I've already sort of touched on this, but the main focus of today is I'm going to be talking about pretty much Shannon O'Connell and when it's time to give it up. Because we'll quickly touch on Nick Ball and Sam Goodman. Sam Goodman probably in with a decent chance. I mean, Nick Ball's only 5'2". Sam Goodman's about, I think, 5'6", 5'7", so he's got a height and reach advantage. If Sam can weather the storm of Nick Ball, he's in with a pretty good chance. So, I was talking to T Street the other day, who I haven't caught up with in a couple of days. We're supposed to do a video on this subject, but that hasn't happened. And he reckons if he can weather the storm for the first 5-6 rounds, Sam's in with a good chance. So Sam needs to box and box intelligently to win that fight. But the other day, I think it was last Saturday, 42-year-old Shannon O'Connell, I think she's had like 35 fights. I should have looked up her record before this, but she's been around for a long time. She's been fighting for 20 odd years. She's had multiple world title fights, lost all of them, and 2 of them with some pretty bad knockouts. I mean, every time Shannon steps up to competition, or more than every time she steps up to the world level, she gets beaten and beaten badly. I mean, Helen Joseph knocked her out in their fight. She was knocked out in 5 rounds by Diana Prozac. But mind you, Shannon is a 122 or a bantamweight fighter, and she was fighting Diana Prozac, who's a 130 fighter. So really no surprises when you think that she got knocked out in 5 rounds by Diana Prozac, who was pretty much the best female super featherweight at the time in the world. So, yeah, and then of course she fought Ebony Bridges a couple of years back, December of 2022. And of course, Ebony pummeled the crap out of her 7 rounds. And she fought Miyamoto, I think it was 2023. Might have been last year. Actually, I think it was last year that she did that, and once again got beaten in 4 rounds. So she had a win over the weekend at just a local club show in Brisbane, and now, apparently she's going to try and chase a fight with Shanika Johnson for a rematch. Because if you remember on the undercard to Mundine Zarafa, I think in 2021, I think it was 2019, it was before that, it was 2019. Shannon did defeat Shanika in a very close match for the WBA Bantam WBA Gold title, which another frivolous title that the WBA throws out there. But that was it 2019 or 2020? Anyway, it was a few years ago. Shannon is not the same fighter that she was when she fought Shanika the first time. I mean, Shannon was, I think it was about 37, 38, late 30s. She's now early 40s. And Shanika hasn't lost a fight since then. I tell a lie, she's lost to Ellie Scottney. But Shanika is on a run. And Shannon at this point is tailor-made for Shanika because she's 12 years younger than Shannon, and Shanika would just beat her up like she has Nina Hughes and Sharita Metcalf. I mean, to be honest, Shanika should be counting her lucky stars because she beat 2 old, way past their prime women to become undisputed. Nina Hughes was 42, as you recall, in the first fight on the George Kambosos Jr. Vasily Lomachenko undercard. Shanika got the win. I thought Nina Hughes won, but in the rematch there was no doubt Shanika beat the living tar out of Nina Hughes, who aged a decade overnight. So, I mean, I really think, and I've said this before, I think, well, Shannon should have retired after the Ebony beatdown, because where was she going to go? You know, I mean, since the Ebony beatdown, she's lost to Miyamoto, she's beaten Jazzy Parr, and Jazzy Parr is a novice fighter and a smaller fighter. Jazzy Parr, remember, was coming up from 112 flyweight to fight Shannon. So Shannon beat a much more younger, inexperienced fighter, and I didn't want that fight because it would have derailed both their careers. And sort of it has. I mean, Jazzy Parr is now fighting girls from Thailand, you know, that names you can't even pronounce, ever since losing to Shannon. I think it was a draw. Or did Shannon get the win? No, it was a close fight. But, yeah, there was a lose-lose in that situation. It's proven, because Shannon gained nothing from beating Jazzy, and Jazzy's career's been derailed to the point now where she's fighting, you know, bloody Thailand girls, names you can't even pronounce. So she's not fighting anyone, you know, of note. So it's a bit of a shame to think that if No Limit was smart, they wouldn't have had the Shannon Jazzy Parr fight, or it would have been the passing of the torch where Jazzy would have beaten Shannon, because that fight could have went either way. So, but I had a draw, and you know, it's really hard to see that you know, Jazzy's career gets derailed so early. Excuse me, because she's done nothing since. And Shannon, they're building up Shannon to a false sense of security, thinking that she's ready for a world title. Shanika will easily beat Shannon if they fight in a rematch, because Shannon's not the same woman she was 4 or 5 years ago when she beat her the first time. You know, Shannon's had surgery since then. She's in her 40s now. I mean, you age a decade overnight in your 40s. Right? And I've said this before, is that the hardest thing for any professional to do is know when to quit, is know when to retire, because even in professional ranks, there are very, very, very few professionals that retire at the top. Like, the person that's retired at the top, the one that I can think of the most is obviously Cameron Smith from the NRL, National Rugby League. But he was just a super freak, and he was so disciplined and lucky that he never got hurt. And extremely lucky that he never got hurt. Right? And boxing terms, really the only boxer who retired when they should have, and they left. You know, you retire at the right time when the people are still begging for more. And that's Lennox Lewis. Lewis retired at the right time. Yeah, after he defeated Mike Tyson, he defeated Vitaly Klitschko, and then he retired because he's like, well, there's no point, you know, he retired. There's no point carrying on, because he knew if he kept on going, he would have got beat. And it's sort of what tarnished his legacy a bit. So, and I think Usyk is in the same boat. I think he needs to fight Joseph Parker, give Joseph Parker his opportunity, and then retire. Win, lose, or draw. So I think that's what Usyk needs to do. Give Joseph Parker his opportunity, win, lose, or draw, call it a day. Leave the crowd wanting more. Like, Jerry Seinfeld said it right, a bit of advice he gave to Hugh Jackman in regards to the Wolverine character. Don't leave the tank completely dry. Always leave a little bit left in the tank when you give it away. And that's exactly right. You've got to retire when you're on top, or at the highest point. It's like so many fighters: Anthony Mundine, Sam Solomon, Mike Tyson. You look at the greats: Mike Tyson, Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard. They all went far. Lester Ellis is another one. They all either retired and then come back for one fight that they never should have done, or they went too long. Ali went far too long. Ali should have retired after the third Norton fight. He kept on going right up until Trevor Berbick in 1981. Tyson should have retired after the Lewis loss, because what did he do after that? Just got beat up by journeymen. Vander Holyfield kept going far too long. I mean, Sam Solomon got knocked out in one round by Joel Camilleri. Sam was nearly 50. And Mundine, well, he went far too long. He finally retired after the Zarafa fight. That Zarafa fight shouldn't have happened. So, and I want to see the same happen to Shannon. You know, Shannon's a 42-year-old woman with 3 children. Her son, Connor, she should be focusing on him, because you don't want to see professionals, it doesn't matter what sport they are, go too long and then it catches up with them. You know? Yeah, they're in their 50s and they can barely string a word together, and they walk around like they're someone in their 90s. You don't want to see that. So I really think Shannon does need to retire, because she's got what she got left off. Okay, she can go around and beat up novices who have got negative records. You know, 7 fights, 3 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. Okay, 8 fights. But she's never going to be. She's never going to get that world title. I mean, she's won a couple of subsidiaries. I think she won the WBF featherweight title and the WIBA super bantamweight title. But they're secondary, second, third tier belts. I don't think she'll ever get the major title. And that's sad. That's sad for Shannon, but that's the reality. I mean, you got to remember, even in boxing, the top 1% of boxers are the only ones that achieve world titles. So, you know, for every world champion, there's 100 guys out there. You know, there's 99 other guys out there that don't get a world title shot. Unfortunately, Shannon's just one of those ones where she's literally the bridesmaid, never the bride. Right? She's been the matron of honor a couple of times, but she's never been the bride. So, and that's just the reality. That's just the reality of the game. Right? It's just the reality of the game. Sometimes you just need to know, okay, look, I'm 42. I've got a shoulder in 15 pieces. I haven't had a decent win since the Shanika fight, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, she's had a crack at a world champion. She got the daylights kicked out of her by Ebony. I mean, that was hard to watch. It's like, well, call it a day. I mean, yeah, and there's people out there say, oh, while she's fit and healthy and when she can still go, she can still go. It only takes one punch to change all that, especially at 42 years of age. You know, it only takes one punch for the change that, and she could be, inebriated. What's the word I'm looking for? Not crippled. She could be severely injured and, you know, have neurological problems for the rest of her life, because she keeps going before she needs to stop. So she does need to stop, because I don't want to see her get hurt. And every time she does get a world title, she gets beaten up badly. I mean, look at the last two. Ebony beat the darts out of her. Miyamoto knocked her out in 4 rounds. So, she says she wants to fight against, what's her name? Sky Nicholson. What a fall from grace. She's got a fight in Brisbane next week, some club show. So she's gone from competing in world titles now to club shows in Brisbane. So I guess, once you lose that belt, it's all over. So, and, I mean, I don't feel sorry for Sky, because she got exposed for the second-rate fighter she always was. So you look at her record, she won a vacant title off of nobody, and she defended against nobodies. When she finally came up against the only decent fighter in the entire division in featherweight, besides Amanda Nunes, besides Amanda Serrano, she got beat. And I'm glad she never fought Amanda Serrano. Amanda Serrano would have kicked the living shit out of her. Amanda Serrano would have annihilated her. So, anyone that said, oh yeah, fighting Serrano was a good idea, you don't know anything about boxing. Amanda Serrano is probably the number 2 female fighter in the world. Second only to Katie Taylor. All right? Second, the number 2 fighter in the world. And you think that this, girl from Australia who's only had 10 fights or 12 fights or whatever, who's fought literally women from PCYCs or YWCAs is going to beat Amanda Serrano? You're a fucking idiot. You think that. Amanda Serrano would murder Sky Nicholson. Murder her. But now she's left the division. She's gone down to 122. In her first fight, she missed the weight by 2 pounds. So, Sky Nicholson, her star will fade. Not that it was ever really shining that bright in the first place. But she is the first Australian to get a win in Vegas. I'll give her that. So, she broke that Vegas curse. Unless Lana Rose fought in Vegas back in the day, I'm not quite sure. Or Johnny Femishon. But Shannon, I think, needs to retire now. On to Nikita and Zarafa's card. Both fighting. No one's just a chin-up fight, but Brock Jarvis is also on the... So Nikita's fighting, Mick Zarafa's fighting, Brock Jarvis is fighting, Josie Parr's fighting, and there's a couple of other fights in there as well. All of them are fighting nobodies, just to keep busy, just to keep active, just to keep their names in the media, just an excuse to charge, I don't know, $70 or whatever it is for a pay-per-view. That's a club show. I've heard now that they want to build up the fight between Nikita and Brock rather than Nikita and Mick. So Zarafa might not happen anyway. But we'll see how it goes. Interesting other news, Liam Paro is in a welterweight. Liam Paro's moved up to welterweight, and he's in a IBF welterweight eliminator against a Frenchman whose name I can't remember. But I'm thinking interesting because I think Boots Ennis has vacated his title and gone up to 154. So that leaves Liam Paro an interesting opportunity to pick up another IBF belt in another division. So I'm like, I hope Liam gets the job done, but I think if he's going to run into the same problems at welterweight that he did at 140, because Teofimo is going to move up, Devin Haney's going to move up. Who else was in the division? I'm not quite sure, but all those big players from 140 are going to move up to 147, and they're just going to run into Liam Paro at some point anyway. So, but it'll be interesting to see if Liam Paro can first get past the Frenchman and then get an opportunity for the vacant IBF belt. If he does, great. I would think that. I would support that. And apparently that card is coming up soon. I'll have more details. I haven't looked into it. I should have looked into it before I've done the video. But anyway, but Liam Paro is taking on a French boxer for the IBF welterweight eliminator. And I think that's going to be, I mean, you've got to give No Limit their credit. They get their fighters the opportunities. The only problem is the fighters just can't deliver. I don't know what it is. So, good luck to Sam for tomorrow. I hope Shannon really does pull the pin. I don't want to see her fight anymore. Even if she fights Shanika, I think Shanika will get over it pretty easily. Good luck to Nikita, Mick, Brock, and Jazzy on their respective fights. They should do pretty well in those. I think this is just a showcase fight to keep them busy, just to fight against each other, which is fine. Excuse me. And Liam, well, all the best to him too. Actually, I will say some things like Brock. I don't know what Brock Jarvis is doing at middleweight or super welterweight, because he got absolutely destroyed by aging 3 years in inactivity Keith Thurman. So if an inactive Keith Thurman, who's never fought at that weight in his life, destroyed him in 3 rounds, what do you think a proper middleweight's going to do to him? Brock Jarvis needs to adhere to Jeff Fennick's advice and go back down to 140 or even 130. But I don't think he can make that weight anymore, because I've met Brock. He's about 5'10". He's a big guy. And unless he wants to be the Sebastian Fundora of those divisions, yeah. But anyway, good luck to all of them. I look forward to seeing the fights. I'll keep you updated with more videos. As always, guys, have yourselves a great day. Tackle the ball, wrestle cock, hold yourselves a fuck up, and we'll see you another day.